Good day and welcome back to another DB Legends video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, the Legends Limited unit that has come to DB Legends, obviously with part 2 of the DB Legends anniversary. Now Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 are a very interesting unit. They are a standby unit, kind of similar in a vein to the blue Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 3 Goku. However, they feel a lot more less built around the gimmick and more a good unit that has the gimmick, if that makes sense. But let's take a look at just their abilities and everything. Let's just understand everything about them before we kind of talk into what they can do. So in terms of skills and abilities, it's pretty straightforward. You've got anti-blast armor on the blast attack in terms of the special move, plus 30% to special move damage for 3 timer counts, applies attribute upgrade, minus 20% to enemy sustained damage effects, reduces the enemy's Dragon Balls by 1, activating twice. They also nullify enemies' restore health when it reaches 0. So all of that's pretty good. Also blast armor on the ability, which is good, and this is consistent between both of them. One is just Gamma Impact, one is just Gamma Blaster, but nothing too crazy. Then in terms of the special skill, the green card, they draw a special arts move card next, activating once. Depends if you are in Gamma 1 and Gamma 2, there are some changes. So the green card for Gamma 1, you draw a special arts card, you restore your own health by 10, ki by 50, you reduce the enemy ki by 40, and then you seal the enemy's special arts. And the reason the cards are different is because in the standby mode, Gamma 2 is going to be pushed off, and we'll talk about obviously that just now, but the important thing is basically that he needs to have some way to mitigate the amount of attacks that your opponent can do. So basically by him sealing an arts card, it's some way of mitigating what they can do, but reduces their ki, seals their arts card, which is all pretty good, and then inflicts all enemies with attribute downgrade plus 20% to damage received. If there's a defeated battle member, he'll also restore his unique gauge by 25%, and restore vanishing gauge as well. When you are with Gamma 2, you do all the same things, you just do not seal the arts card. And the reason you don't seal the arts card is obviously because, again, in the standby mode, Gamma 2 is not going to be usable. So let's talk a little bit about the standby mode, since obviously that's a very big part of how these units function. So in terms of the main ability, basically how it works is you switch them like any normal tag unit, but every time you switch them, every time you use a green card, every time you build up their unique gauge, you gradually start filling it up. Once you have their unique gauge at full, Gamma 2 is going to sub out. He's not going to be available, he's not going to be a unit you can use, he's not going to be playable in any way. They're actually going to lock your ability to tag switch. And what this is going to do is, by locking your ability to tag switch, this is essentially going to keep you in just being Gamma 1, but it's going to have a huge AoE attack that will occur when your unique gauge decreases down to 0. So this is very important. Now, the reason why it's important is because obviously it explains the difference between their green card, but it's also a very core mechanic to them. Obviously the core breaker is something you want to try and get. Now, when you are switching, before the core breaker activates, it's pretty straightforward. Switching restores ally health by 10%, which is pretty good. Shortens ally substitution counters by 10. Reduces enemy Dragon Balls by 1. If there's a defeated battle member, when they switch, they restore their own health by 25%, they nullify unfavorable element factors, and they reduce the enemy's Dragon Balls again by 1. If they are in the core breaker, once they activate the core breaker, you are stuck being with Gamma 1. You basically cannot be Gamma 2, you have to be Gamma 1, and when that occurs, you will restore some health, you will get 20% damage inflicted. Gamma 2, you will restore your vanishing gauge by 100%, you nullify enemies' unfavorable element factors, and you nullify health restoration factors as well when the core breaker mechanic occurs. During this, half of the damage inflicted will also be dealt to enemy units on standby. The damage from this attack cannot defeat enemy units on standby. The damage cannot be evaded, the damage cannot be cover changed against. The unique gauge will completely disappear afterwards, and basically you will now be stuck playing Gamma 1, while Gamma 2 is obviously no longer available. But it's huge damage. I mean, again, very similar to the Kamehameha that you guys know from the Super Saiyan 2 Goku and the Vegeta. It's huge AoE damage. We're talking like massive levels of damage, just massive AoE single target. It'll definitely defeat whatever unit it hits, and it's going to do huge damage to whatever side units. In terms of getting there, you basically only really have their green card and the tag switch. The tag switch will increase the unique gauge, which is obviously great, but then there's not really too much else outside of that, strictly speaking. In terms of their passives, pretty straightforward. 90% of damage inflicted, damage reduction of 70%, which is good. Nullification of abnormal conditions, -5 to blast arts card cost, which is more than fine always. And when they enter the battlefield, they gain damage inflicted, +1 to card draw speed. They gain damage infliction buffs for the amount of timer counts that they're out by. And every time they land a strike or blast card hit, they charge their switch gauge, they charge their vanishing gauge by 10%, their switch gauge by 30%. And they're just very, very solid. When they are building up, they can build up pretty decently. They're definitely a very good combo card. They have the ability to really combo into damage very, very well once they get going. And they restore health as well. So every time you switch them back into play, they can restore 10% HP, which is pretty good. And just in general, they have, what can I say? They just very, very good unit. But the main thing to take away, I mean, it's a lot of information to take in, but essentially how it works is, to cut a long story short, when they are not doing the core breaker mechanic, they're a very good combo unit. Switching between them gives you health restoration, gives you the ability to shorten your ally substitution counter. It also gives you the ability to nullify unfavorable element factors. You can cover change with them, they're very good against blast cover change. And in general, they're just a very good unit. They can be decently tanky, they can restore their health, and when they get going, they can do decent damage. They are blast orientated, which I think is good for them overall. They do some decent damage with their special move, and they're a solid unit. They're not insane, and I think obviously you gotta understand the standby mechanic kind of prevents them from being insane, if that makes sense. Like, it's important to understand that the standby mechanic, as a feature, is something that does limit units to a certain extent. Like, it's a feature that by design always kind of hinders a unit functionally, because of the fact that when you are always looking at these units, when you are building these standby units, their standby skills are meant to be these big explosive AoE huge massive damage dealing abilities. And when you want to give units these abilities, you kind of have to a certain extent prioritize like not making them as good. You can see how much health we're healing here. You can see the vanishing gauge going up from the strike attacks. It's all very good stuff. Again, we can activate the health restoration effect. We get more health restoration. The tankiness is really good. So there's like a lot that's really solid here. And I think, you know, you have to, for me, they're an improved version of what the Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta and Goku was. These guys feel a little bit more playable as a unit than, you know, these guys feel a little bit more playable as a unit than maybe like, you know, Vegeta and Goku did feel, like at least on like premise. I will say, you know, from my side, that I think the core breaker mechanic is something that, you know, they do a good job of utilizing at the end of the day. And, you know, this was just a match to show how tanky they can be, which I think is good. So you don't always need to show how a unit performs in a winning situation. But I think for me, having played, you know, around 20 or so matches with them now, at least after this video, I think for me the big thing about them is they're just a fun unit to use. They feel good to play before the core breaker mechanic, and then when you do the core breaker mechanic, it feels like a good situation. It's not insane. It's not like the core breaker comes out and it's a win. You know, you do need a bit of setup, you need a bit of health, you need a bit of, you know, support, you need a bit of things like this. But, you know, it's not like they're useless until they core breaker, which I think is very good design. Now, yeah, for me though, overall, I will say, at least on, you know, the surface level of things, I will say that I probably find, you know, their team is pretty decent as well, obviously with all the recent buffs. So you have a decent chunk of options, but I do think androids and blast androids is probably where you want to run these guys. You know, looking figuratively, you know, you have a ton of blast-based units that can just work with these guys. You know, you have, like, for example, the Red Androids Legends Limited, you have Blue 17, you have them themselves. So that's already 3 big Blast Legends Limited characters that you can use, which is great. You have the big Blast bonus that you can kind of provide from good support units, like the Magenta. So I think overall, you are decent. Probably better off running them on a Androids Blast team, than running them on, you know, a, you know, Movie Saga team. You know, just one of those things. But yeah, I think overall they are good. I really like using them. They've been a ton of fun for me as a player. Like, I've really enjoyed using them. And yeah, I would say, you know, between you and me, that they are probably just about good enough to be a top tier unit. How long they'll stay that way, I think, is going to be interesting. They are very good. Like, I can't stress enough how much fun these guys are to use. The amount of health you can get back, the amount of damage you can do when you combo in, you know, just amount of, like, decent tankiness and just good, like, strong build that they can provide to you and just give to the team. I think overall it's just very good. So yeah, I would honestly say, at least from my side, that, you know, at the end of the day, I think they're well worth the effort to get. If you're someone that's super into the superhero movie, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 were, you know, very interesting players. But yeah, I would say You know, they honestly are probably well worth it. Core Break is cool. It looks really awesome. And it pressurizes the opponent well enough. I also think there's still enough purple units in the meta that you are, how can I say, yeah, still gonna find good value with a strong yellow unit. Yeah, which I think a lot of players need to appreciate, a strong yellow unit. And here we're gonna get the, here we're gonna get the Core Breaker mechanic. Looks awesome, by the way. Really, 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 really top. Core Breaker looks great. Bit sad actually, but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I like them. I really like them a lot. I think they work great on two teams, and them personally as a unit, I have a lot of fun with them. That's gonna be it from me. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I'll see you next time. Till then, bye.